Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
The more successful you get at these things, sometimes you think, oh, well, I'm just successful. I don't really have to follow this or that because I have great people. That's not true. You have to constantly be the visionary of that business. You have to constantly be the person behind looking at the books, asking questions, and getting answers.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, my name is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast. Welcome to another show. And today I'm going to share information about it's thoughts from a serial entrepreneur, and that would be me. I'm going to call it fiscal responsibility from a serial entrepreneur. And I have, when you start talking about physical health, I thought, and I'm doing a presentation on this weekend, so I thought they said physical health. Well, I said, well, wait a minute, guys. I don't run the 5-minute miles and I don't do marathons. I do work out and lift weights, but I'm probably not the emblem of physical health. They went, no, fiscal health. I was like, oh, money. And let me share a little bit. And some of you know me pretty well, and some don't, or just know me through the podcast. But my philosophy, and it's not what I'm going to recommend for most, is, a budget is really important. I mean, Dave Ramsey is one of my top, I'm one of the top fans of Dave Ramsey. My kids follow Dave Ramsey. We're the number one marketer and advertiser in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex with Dave Ramsey. He does commercials for Granbury Dental Center, and which paying off debt, doing all those things. Well, let me tell you a little bit about being a serial entrepreneur. It's a curse. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. I've started no less than 20 businesses in the last 42 years, of which probably 12 or 13 were really good, but didn't really end up where I wanted them to end up. It wasn't a big plus as far as my financial future, if you know what I mean. The ones that failed were not failures; they were lesson teachers. They taught me what to do and what not to do. And as the last podcast I talked about being better next year than you are this year, you have to come when you're talking about investing or as an entrepreneur, maybe growing businesses. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that also invest in real estate, that invest in all kinds of things. I mean, there's rare coins, there's stamps, there's rugs, there's, Persian. There are people that invest in Beanie Babies. There are I've always tried to be an entrepreneur in something that I know something about. And that would be dentistry. We started companies. that have been very successful, that have sold to private equity, and that have brought great returns financially. But what did I learn through that? And how can I help you learn some lessons as a serial entrepreneur? And you may not have that entrepreneurial spirit, but I'll do the same thing as a dentist. How can you be successful? But as an entrepreneur, doing things that I've got friends that are really good at music. They're also happen to be a dentist, but they got that entrepreneurial spirit, so they've done things in the music arena that have brought them joy and brought them revenue. From my perspective, again, I've kind of stuck it with the dentist. I've stayed here. Back in the early 90s, I wrote a book on implant dentistry. It was called Implant Dentistry, Simplified, Predictable, and Profitable. It was 1991. And why did I want to write that book? Well, I wanted to write that book because if you find something that you do well at, and then you can teach that, that is to me a potential for a company, or potential for a product, or potential for something in the future that you want to pursue. And I wrote the book, Implant Dentistry, Simplified, Predictable, and Profitable. We sold our price for that book was $365. We sold about 1,300 copies. So that's over $500,000 back in 1991. That was a lot of money. And I laugh and joke in that it probably cost me $600,000 to market it, and to get out and go to the meetings, and to go be in the exhibit halls with my book. I also built flip charts. We didn't have software back then, but I was doing everything that I could to make it easy for a patient to say yes and easy for a doctor to present. And those were just things I looked at. And so you would say, well, if you spent $600 and you only brought in $500, that's an abject failure. You were a total failure. I said, no, I learned a lot. I learned an awful lot. And what I did is I took that lesson, and as a serial entrepreneurs are those folks who just continually are coming up with new ideas, new thoughts, new things that they could do. And I was involved with Experdent and education centers. I thought that was going to be a blast. Why? Because I love teaching. I love being in front of the room. That didn't work out. That company wasn't my start, but it was one that just kind of imploded back in the early 2000s, at a time when everybody thought all you had to do was be a part of a company and it would grow and you would sell, because that's what all the internet companies were doing for billions of dollars and all of that. I never looked at any of that. Again, somebody told me when I was young, be the best that you can be at somebody, and then at something, and then find out how to share that with others. That's when we started Productive Dentist Academy. And PDA started, like many of you know, small group. Now it's, we'll have 200-300 people coming to these meetings, and it's a blast. It's a success story. No question about it. We've been very successful. I've had great partners. If you're going to be involved as an entrepreneur, the one thing that you have to understand is more than likely you are a great thinker. You're a great idea person. You may not be the best doer. You may not be the best at putting together, how things are going to go, is exactly how everything works in whatever business it is. And it's important for you to understand that there are differences, different skills. All of us have different skills. I've been blessed to be able to find people who are extremely good at execution. I come up with an idea, they go, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. This is what we have to do. Bam, bam, bam. And I'm going, exactly. What you just said, I love that. I am extremely good at delegating as an entrepreneur, and I'm extremely good at holding people accountable, which you have to have if you're going to go on an entrepreneurial journey. But finding the right people and giving those people the latitude to make decisions as you go through. and all the time reporting to you, having KPIs, key practice indicators or key business indicators that are things that you want to see how the business is going. I will tell you, I had another great business, and we were one of the largest. It was CDs, in the mouth videos. We had the largest. It was called National Dental Network, and it was a phenomenal company. I made a significant mistake in who I picked as CEO, and that person eventually. And I did not hold them accountable. I did not study the books that were being presented to me the way I should have. I didn't question things because I thought this person, because they're CEO, they've got to be better at doing this than myself. And what we found was that person ended up stealing money from the company, basically bankrupting the company. That really hurt. It really hurt several of us who were involved in that company. But what I learned was, hey, if you can't hold them accountable, if you're not looking at the books, you can't blame anybody but yourself. If you don't have the right people in the right places and you're not holding them accountable by those KPIs, then forget it. You're going to find yourself, and what else happens, the more successful you get at these things, sometimes you think, oh, well, I'm just successful. I don't really have to follow this or that because I have great people. That's not true. You have to constantly be the visionary of that business. You have to constantly be the person behind looking at the books, asking questions, and getting answers. You don't have to do the work. You have to come up with the ideas, find people who are executors, and then follow them, and then make sure they're following your recommendations, and make sure that they're reporting to you with the numbers that you want to see. So that company, then we came up with compassionate finance. Compassionate finance was a need that dentistry had in 2008 after the Great Recession. And that company took off. To this day, we've done, I think, over 600 million in notes for dentists across the country. And that company, almost 2 years ago, was sold to private equity. And I'm still a member and a part of that. But I was so fortunate because I found a CEO that was a CEO that ran with the company for the first 5 years. And then it became apparent that I needed to have another CEO at that point in time. So a startup company, oftentimes you'll go through 2 or 3 CEOs over the growth of that business. You have some that are really good at the startup. You have some that are really good in the middle. And then when it's time to take it to potential private equity or to somebody out there that for sale, there are people who are great at that. So it's super important to surround yourself with great people. And I've been very fortunate because the people that I've worked with on my past endeavors, we're still friends. When I come up with ideas, I call them, and guess what? They want to work with us. They want to work with me. They want to find, all right, let's do it. And so this is all building. This is all building on your own need to be creative, your own needs to be that entrepreneur. I'm such a serial entrepreneur. I'm working right now on a golf glove dryer. Now that sounds crazy. Why on earth would you build a golf glove dryer? Well, because my hands sweat, and I live in Texas, and in the summertime, I've got 3 or 4 gloves attached to the top of my bag, and I'm always constantly changing gloves, and they'll rot because they were wet, and I throw them in my trunk. Well, we've developed a little golf glove dryer that hooks onto your bag, and all you do is you put the golf glove around the bag, around this little golf glove dryer, and you push a button, and fans dry out the fingers and dry out the glove in about 90 seconds. Your glove is dry. Is that going to be good? Hey, we're in the process of doing it, so we'll see. If you see it on PGA Golf, you'll know that Bruce Baird came up with that concept. So now I'm going to go back just for a second because we're at the end of this one, but I want to tell you, I very rarely have had a budget because I've always outproduced my expenditures. Now, how do I do that? That's being highly productive as a dentist. And that's where productive dentistry came in. No matter what, I want you to have, and what PDA teaches, I want to teach you how to work 3 days a week and make more money than you were doing 5 days. I can do that with my eyes closed, because that extra 2 days, or, I can teach you how to work 2 days. We have some of our docs now that are down to 2 days a week, and they have offices that are doing $5 and $6 million a year. Yes, I can do that. I can do it with my eyes closed, but by freeing up your time, it frees it up for all the things that are important. Just like I talked about a couple of talks ago, is memento mori. We know we're going to die. Let's do it having fun with things that we love to do with the people that we love. And isn't that fun? I mean, it is. And if you're not there, come to PDA. Let us help you. Let us drive you in the right direction. Let us challenge you. Because if you're not being challenged, then truthfully, you're probably not growing, and probably you're not going to be better next year than you are this year. So that's my wish for you. That's my prayer for you, is that, if we can't help you, there are people out there that can. But I want you to think differently when you think I really can't do this, or I really, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got all these ideas and I just really can't make them happen. You know where all the ideas in the world are? They're in the cemetery. That's where they all are. And I don't want you to have those ideas and not know what to do with them. So I'm always here, Bruce at Productive Dentist. I hope you have a great week and look forward to next week.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.